Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're an investor aiming to set up shop in Monitech's Mesaide Industrial Zone, you already know you're dealing with a truly world-class facility. But as we all know, world-class facilities demand world-class compliance. So today we're taking this massive stack of official Monitech manuals and translating them into a clear, structured roadmap for your success. Let's get right into it. Are you ready to build your industrial empire in Mesaide? It's a massive opportunity for sure, but let's be totally honest here. The sheer volume of paperwork, the feasibility guidelines, the construction specs, it can all seem incredibly daunting at first glance. But don't worry, we're going to crack the code of these documents together. We're going to frame this whole complex regulatory web as a highly logical, completely navigable journey. You bring the vision, and this explainer will give you the precise blueprint to get your facility from a simple application all the way to breaking ground. Okay, let's dive into this. We've structured our roadmap today around 5 core phases. First, the application phase. Second, non-targeted sectors. Third, the feasibility study. Fourth, development control regulations. And finally, number 5, the construction phase. Starting right at the beginning with phase 1, the application phase. This is your starting line. Before a single shovel hits the dirt, your administrative foundation has to be flawless. Now, Monitech explicitly advises nominating a single contact person, ideally your project manager, just to prevent any crossed wires. And looking at the application itself, you'll notice an immediate focus on viability. Way beyond your basic IDs and commercial registrations, Monitech needs immediate proof of financial capacity. That means a credit bureau consent form and 3 years of audited financials right out of the gate. Oh, and a quick pro tip straight from the manual, double-check your contact numbers. Monitech uses SMS for notifications, and missing just one text could stall your entire project. Moving on to phase 2, non-targeted sectors. Basically, knowing your limits. Now, what's really interesting about this part is that before you sink capital into a massive feasibility study, you absolutely have to know if your business is even permitted here. Looking directly at the official guide, we see some pretty strict exclusions. For example, all industrial activities related to food and beverage manufacturing. Restricted. Furthermore, specific branches of petroleum refining, think liquid fuels, ethane, and butane, are explicitly non-targeted. It's a heavily curated zone, so catching this early is absolutely crucial and saves an incredible amount of time and money. Which brings us to phase 3, the feasibility study. This is all about proving the concept. Monitech makes it crystal clear that the feasibility study is not just some administrative formality. It is a rigorous, 10-step financial and operational audit designed to prove your solvency. The first 5 steps really set the stage. You have to detail your ownership structure, prove how your product adds value to the national economy, and lay out a granular production plan, literally down to your exact water and gas requirements. Step 4 even demands an initial factory design that fully complies with Qatar's building requirements. I actually want to pause here for a second because this specific requirement tells us so much about Monitech's vision. Woven right into the production plan and factory design steps is a strict mandate to demonstrate the use of 4th Industrial Revolution technology. That's right, they expect investors to incorporate advanced, highly optimized, smart manufacturing tech. You aren't just building a standard factory here. Monitech requires you to build a modernized, forward-thinking facility. It's a real game changer. Rounding out the feasibility study are steps 6 through 10. You need a rock-solid marketing plan detailing your target export markets. Step 7 is heavily scrutinized. You've got to establish the exact payback period, your unit production cost, and the specific cost of imported raw materials per unit. You'll also need a complete implementation timeline leading right up to trial production. Now, step 9 is a big one. It requires outlining your workforce and, crucially, specifying your target percentage for job nationalization. And finally, step 10 demands a comprehensive risk analysis covering management, market, and operational risks, complete with clear-cut mitigation plans. Okay, let's transition to phase 4, development control regulations, or as I like to call it, designing to spec. So, once your concept gets the green light, you have to design your theoretical factory to fit the physical reality of Mesaide. And this brilliantly illustrates just how stringent Monitech's master plan really is. Looking at the official development control table for the light industries area, you can see every single metric is mapped out. Building height is strictly capped at 12 meters, front setbacks are a hard 15 meters, and even your ancillary buildings are mathematically governed. Let's move along and see how this builds across different zones, because the rules actually shift depending on your land use type. For light and medium industries, plot coverage is pretty strict. You can only build on 60% of the total area. But if your plot is zoned for warehousing and storage, that coverage jumps up to 80%, giving you a much denser footprint. Interestingly, though, across all these zones, the maximum building height stays locked at 12 meters. The front setback is a uniform 15 meters, and you absolutely must dedicate a minimum of 3.5% of your plot to soft landscaping. Now, digging a little deeper into the site development regs reveals a genuinely fascinating contrast, especially around boundary walls and fencing. Check this out. If you're operating in the medium industry zone, the regulations explicitly state that fencing is simply not permitted at the plot perimeter. No way. But jump over to warehousing and storage, and fencing is actually permitted between plots at a minimum height of 2.4 meters. It's a highly specific zoning choice, and it completely dictates the visual and operational flow of the different sectors within the zone. And this level of visual control extends tightly to aesthetics, too. The regulations mandate that the exterior of all buildings must be white or beige. Period. Furthermore, the rules are absolute when it comes to temporary structures. They state quite clearly that temporary buildings like porta-cabins are explicitly prohibited. It's all about maintaining a highly cohesive, premium visual standard across the entire industrial landscape. Finally, we arrive at Phase 5, the construction phase. Time to break ground. All right, so you've navigated the paperwork and your designs meet every single millimeter of the regulations. It's time to break ground. But wait, you can't just show up with a bulldozer. First, you absolutely must obtain a building permit from the Ministry of Municipality and Environment. Only after that can you secure explicit site access authorization from Manatech to set up your temporary facilities. As you can see, active construction works are actually the very last step in this precise sequence. So the crucial point to remember here is that while Manatech manages the zone, your construction still has to comply with a massive framework of national standards. As detailed here, you and your contractors are legally bound to adhere to the Qatar construction specifications, the Work Zone Traffic Management Guide, Kahama specifications for utilities, Qatar Civil Defense for fire safety, and, of course, strict environmental and noise regulations so you aren't a nuisance to your neighbors. Manatech's manual doesn't replace these national laws, it actively enforces them right there within the zone. And make no mistake, compliance is very closely monitored. The construction manual states, quote, Manatech reserve the right to inspect from time to time either directly or by means of a TFMA, which stands for Total Facility Management Agent. If your contractor strays from the approved blueprints or violates those construction specs, this text neutrally but firmly outlines that Manatech can apply penalties directly, or they can coordinate with the municipality to enforce the rules. Basically, both the investor and the contractor are jointly on the hook for maintaining total compliance. As we wrap up this explainer today, I want to bring us back to Manatech's core motto: prime foundations, boundless opportunities. Going through all these guidelines, the stringent feasibility audits, the exact 15-meter setbacks, the 4AR tech requirements, the rigorous construction inspections, I know it might seem completely exhausting. But these strict regulations are precisely what make those foundations prime. By successfully navigating these steps, you're building your business in an environment engineered for long-term resilience and ultimate stability. You now have the complete roadmap to the Mesaieed Industrial Zone. You know exactly what applications to file, what sectors to avoid, how to structure your feasibility study, how to design within the lines, and how to execute your construction flawlessly. The whole groundwork is laid out for you. So I'll leave you with this. Now that you understand the rules of the zone, how will your project shape Qatar's industrial future? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.